Hi everyone, hope you had a great weekend. This is our math lesson for Monday, May 11th, and I'm on page 727. We're going to keep working on practicing partitioning a rectangle into squares. So just continuing from last week. So the things I want you to remember, last week we talked about rows and columns, and I want you to remember as you walk into a movie theater, the rows of seats, you look down to see if there's an empty seat. They're the long rows, okay? Columns go up and down, okay? Up and down, top to bottom. So keep that in mind today as we keep working on it. Most of the work I saw last week was amazing, so keep up the great work. And we're going to take a look at this. It says, study the example showing how to draw and count squares. So this is what we're on, and we're right here. And it gives you the dots, which is kind of nice because it's a little easier to make your squares the same size. It says, Sal draws squares on dot paper to fill a rectangle. How many squares does he draw in all? So first of all, the outside was the rectangle. You can see it here. And then he used the dots to draw same size squares. Now, he just chose to make 2 rows, okay? 2 rows, and there are 4 in each row. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how he made his rectangle. Now, you could also choose to make much smaller squares if you look at the dots, but the way that Sal did it is just perfectly fine. It says you can count each squares, or you can count the rows and then the number in each row. So 2 rows with 4 in each row. 2 times 4 is 8, or you could do 4 plus 4, just a repeated addition number sentence. Okay, so he draws 4 squares in all. So now you get to try. You're going to break apart the rectangle into same size squares and answer the questions below. Remember, as long as the squares are the same size, you can make them really, really small to fit into this rectangle, or you can make them a little bit bigger, but they do have to be squares, and they do have to be the same size. So you might have to play around with it a little bit. How many rows of squares are there? So you already have the rectangle, you draw the lines. How many squares are in each row? Remember, rows go across, columns go up and down. And then complete the equation to find how many squares. Blank plus blank plus blank. So they wanted a repeated addition sentence here to go with your squares up here. Okay? And then how many squares are in the rectangle? And then you fill it in. Okay? So it looks like, here's your little hint, blank plus blank plus blank. It looks like they want 3 of something. Can you figure out what they want 3 of? Okay, then we're moving on to number 5, which is page 728. It looks like this. Number 5, write an equation to find how many squares are in this rectangle. So it says blank plus blank plus blank. Now, here's your hint. There are 3 blanks. Now, if you look here, there are only 2 rows. So that's not going to fill in blank plus blank plus blank. But if you look at the columns, you might be able to use that. So how many in this column? Because there are 3 columns. How many in this column? 2. How many in this column? Plus 2. How many in this column? Plus 2. Okay? And then you can add those up. So be careful. If they would have given you 2 blanks here, just blank plus blank, then you could have used the rows. But they gave you 3, so you needed to use the columns. Number 6, write an equation to find how many squares are in the rectangle. All right? So how many rows and how many in each row? Or you could do how many columns and how many in each column. So it's going to be a repeated number sentence, addition sentence, and it's going to be fairly long because there are lots of rows, well, at least 4, and there are several columns, at least 6. So I would like to see what your repeated number sentence is, and then how many squares altogether. Number 7, the rectangle in problem 5, so go back up to problem 5 and look at this. And the rectangle in problem 6, so you're looking at both of these, are the same size. So this and this rectangle, not the squares inside, both of these rectangles are the same size. Why does the rectangle in problem 6 have more squares than the other rectangle? So the outside, the perimeter of the rectangle, the outside outline, they're both exactly the same size, but this one has more squares. Why do you suppose that is? And don't overthink it, because it's a fairly simple answer, okay? So it just wants to know, why do you think it has more? And they don't give you lines, but you can write your answer here. Remember to keep it simple, okay? Number 8, draw lines to show 2 different ways to break apart the rectangle into same-size squares. So they give you 2 same-size rectangles. They want you to break into squares 2 different ways. So if you break into squares here, don't break into squares the same way here. So these 2, when you are finished breaking them into squares in different ways, are going to have different numbers, okay? This one might have 8 squares and this one might have 24. I don't know. But that's your job, is to make these look different. Okay? So just continuing to break those into squares. And if you have any questions, let me know. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. So just keep at it, keep working hard, and I'm happy to help. Remember, do the best you can, and that's all I ask. So hope you enjoyed the lesson. I hope you understand it. If not, please get in touch with me, okay? I appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye.